My name is Eric Cohn. I've been with RunSignUp for, I think about 8 months. I've been in the industry for 11 years. And in my past life, I was actually a full-on IT geek and know all sorts about the internet stuff behind RunSignUp, but also know a lot of the people in here, along with a lot of people in the industry from a sales perspective and networking perspective. So we are going to cover fundraising. Natalie is also up here. Some of you may know Natalie. She's a technical account manager. If you don't know her by name, she's actually one of the people that may indirectly answer your question through someone else, because everyone goes to Natalie inside RunSignUp for questions with fundraising, including myself sometimes. So she's going to help correct me if I'm incorrect at all, but hopefully we can nail this and help everyone. So before we really get into it, I had a couple questions for you guys. How many of you are charities that operate events? Anyone? Okay.
Ooh.
And then how many organizations operate events that have multiple charities? Okay. How many of you guys do fundraising for registration entries? Anyone? Handful? Okay. And then how many of you have already used RunSignUp for fundraising? Cool. Just wanted to get an idea of who I'm presenting to so that we don't try and bore you to death with everything. But some of you don't obviously know the fundraising platform. We're going to start with the basics and go through. Obviously, this year, as Bob talked about, we've done a ton of work, mainly for the Philly Conan, but we've also had some other organizations that chipped in and said, hey, we really want X, Y, and Z. So we built a lot of cool features. So obviously, a big thank you to Philly. We'll go through today the basics. We'll go over some of the advanced fundraising. Then we have a new feature that was released, 2 months ago, that allows the charities to manage a lot of that. So if you're an organization and you have 3 or 5 charities that are involved in your event, you can actually give them access to manage a lot of that interaction with fundraisers, and they can see the reports and stuff. So we'll show you that. And then Fundraiser Management, reports, and at the end we can do a whole bunch of questions if you have any. And obviously we're available for one-on-ones, so if we don't get to your questions or you don't feel comfortable asking questions, go set up a one-on-one and we can sit down and cover the nitty-gritty of your actual events and fundraising. So here's a basic donation setup page for us, and with that you can go in, you can actually set up start date and end date. You can add a description to your actual fundraising page. With that, it'll allow people to get an idea of why you're asking for funds. We also have all sorts of simple settings where you can go in, set up a goal thermometer, and what that does is you can set a goal, say, hey, I want to raise $700,000. And it's going to give you an idea of how close you are to that goal, and in that regard, a scrolling list of your top donors, maybe top individuals and fundraising teams, because the platform can actually do both individual and teams. As a team, it obviously is grouping a whole bunch of individual fundraisers, and they're working together towards one goal.
Can you do more than one? So for example, you're a race, but you have 2 charities, and you want people to be able to pick. You can have 2 of these at one time?
Yes, actually, I'm not sure off the top of my head what the largest one is, but I've set one up with 70, I believe.
Yeah. No way.
Yeah, 70 different charities. So some of the larger
events, yeah.
marathons and half marathons have massive numbers of charities, and they're literally they're bombarded with
And this
charities.
doesn't have to be part of our race registration. You can just come right to RunSignUp and say, I want to set up a platform for donations. Is that correct?
Technically, you can do it, but you would still need to set up the race and then close registration and hide the sign up button, and then it does work for standalone.
It is
giving.
doable. It's just not our intended purpose, obviously. So we're not just a fundraising only type of platform. So.
Yep.
Go ahead and. So there are tons of features within the fundraising setup. The basic setup for it allows you to set up fundraising for your participants, and when they actually are going through the registration process, you can actually have them set up the fundraising at that point in time. And when they're in the process of registering for your event, they can decide at that point, hey, you know what, I want to be a fundraiser for this charity. They select the charity. So what we do with the basic fundraising setup is we can allow you to go in and set up fundraising. You can allow fundraising teams at that point. You can force fundraising. So what that would do is require every participant to fundraise. So if you have a charity that you want to really force everyone to do, you would actually go in and be able to do that. You can actually set it up also to require only registrants of the race. So if you're saying, hey, I only want people that are participants to raise funds, you can go in and actually check that off and not have outside individuals joining the fundraising charge.
A good example of that is Semper Fi funds, so they get spots to Marine Corps Marathon and Chicago Marathon, and then they want to make sure that the fundraisers that they register to sign up with Semper Fi Fund for one of those spots, they're forced to create a fundraising page. They're forced to agree to a certain minimum, so they have to raise that $600, and then they're forced to create their fundraising page during the registration process. So
Can that be a combination thing? So for example, a race sells out at 2,000 entries, but you've reserved 200 more spots for fundraisers. Can you close a regular registration and then invoke these opportunities and say, yep, now you gotta go do the fundraiser?
you would want to set up another event within the race. The forced fundraising can be set at the event level. So Sherry behind you is a great example of that. They do that for all of their races. They have a fundraiser category. When it sells out, they only have fundraiser entries.
So with the required fundraising, obviously, it's going to require everyone that is going through registration to actually fundraise. And with that, they're able to set goals. They're able to set up their own pages. And we're going to show you some of that in a couple more slides. So with that, one of the options, obviously, is to waive the registration fee. So if they're going to go ahead and say, hey, you know what, I'm going to fundraise, we have the option within the platform to waive registration fees. We have some other cool features with that, which are sort of tied to the fundraising for registration, where they have specific goals that they have to meet, and we can actually do refunds also based off of those goals. So we'll show you some of those advanced features here in a second. One of the cool parts about fundraising is that you really want to try and drive that participation and get people really interested and engaged in raising funds. With that, setting milestones, giving them thresholds that you can go in and set up and say, hey, if you're at $150 fundraised, you're going to be a 3-star or 1-star or whatever you want to set. You can go in and set those up, and that allows on their fundraising page, it'll highlight them. It'll also highlight them in other spots on the platform and the scrolls and so on. So you can go in and add those milestones. There's other things, obviously, that you can do. For instance, congratulation text that you can customize. The default messages, you can go in and customize those for the individual fundraisers and allow them to not have to type up their own messages and such for emails, for thanking their friends for donating. Those type of things are actually something that you guys can provide, or the charities can actually go in and provide. And with that, the actual fundraisers don't have to write up nice messages.
And that also makes sure that your mission and information about your charity is being portrayed to everyone correctly.
You can include your tax information in there if you want to do that, but you can also, as she was stating, cover why you're here. You know, as a charity, you don't always get to state your message clearly, and that's a good opportunity to go in and talk about your charity.
And the default fundraising message can be set on a per charity basis. So if you do have 3 or 4 or 5 different charities, when you're setting up the charity, you can give a description about American Cancer Society and about San Diego Humane Society. And that way, when I create my fundraising page and choose my charity, my fundraising page is auto-defaulted with that fundraising message.
Is this able to take the place of CrowdRise or one of those guys?
I would say that we are pretty darn close to being able to do that. There are some things that CrowdRise is a full-on charity platform. They do no registration.
Yeah.
We would say that we're building to that point where we literally are looking at clients that use CrowdRise in the past and they're saying, hey, we're going to switch over. So we've had a whole bunch of organizations that are doing that simply because we're tightly integrated. We control literally the registration and the fundraising part, and therefore we can customize how that workflow happens for organizations. There is no jump from Reg over to a whole other platform. We have a lot of the data already in place where we're collecting the Reg information, and we can actually expedite the process of setting up fundraising. From a feature set, I would say we're pretty darn close.
Yeah.
There are some things that, that it would have to be literally on an event by event basis where we'd have to go in and look at what features you are using. I would say that for 90% of you or more, we're probably capable of doing what you need.
So some groups want to fundraise. They fundraise on their own and they use CrowdRise for it, and then they want to know if there's a way to integrate it into RunSignUp.
So we do have an integration with CrowdRise. Their API is a little bit limited. So with the CrowdRise integration, after registration, it prompts people to go to the CrowdRise site and create the fundraising page. The downside of the CrowdRise integration is you cannot make a donation during the registration process. So we actually see when people are using the CrowdRise integration, their donations are a lot less.
Lower.
And the RunSignUp donation processing fees are less than half that of CrowdRise.
Yeah, I'm
so
sure.
That was my
I'm
question.
sure, yeah.
The next question is going to be, what are the pricing structures there? Because that's key for that.
4% for RunSignUp.
Very simple.
I'm assuming then you guys are fluid in terms of we would never have to deal with the income from the actual charity revenue that you are paying them directly.
You'll see that in a minute, but
Got it.
the answer to
Thank
that
you.
question is yes.
Okay.
You have the option.
The question is, do we pay the event that is handling registration, or can we pay directly to the charity? And there is an option to have each charity get their own payment account and get the payments directly, so that you're not being funneled the money, and a lot cleaner accounting. So one of the cool features that we've added is fundraising refunds. And with the fundraising refunds, you actually have the ability to refund someone that has hit a threshold or a goal. So in this example, the registrant has to hit a donation amount of $1,000, and then they will get a refund of $150, as an example. And with that, the assumption would be that they probably registered for a $150 raise, and they've getting a refund of $150 back, so they get a free refund, or a free entry, I should say, into the race because they raised $1,000. And that is, at a core, sort of the fundraising for registration principle, that you're trying to get people to commit to raising a whole bunch of funds for a charity of your choice, or potentially the charity that you operate. And as such, they get a free entry into your race. So that's a basic one. There are some organizations that literally have 50 charities that are trying to do the same thing, and we're working towards that end goal of being able to implement that even in a more complex way.
For registration, let's say they paid $40 for our 5K right now, and then the price is gonna go up in August, so then it's gonna go to 45. I should go in there and change it at that point to 45 to refund them.
You could start with the setup at 45 and just make sure that that box is checked for do not include the add-on purchase amount. We never refund donation amounts or group setup fees. We can only refund the amount that they paid for their registration.
Okay, so if it's set at 45 and they actually registered on a team and only paid 40, they're only going to get the $40 back.
We never over refund.
Okay.
So in other words, if they paid 40, the price is now 45, you could set it at the end price that you have. Let's say it's 60. We're not going to refund them 60. We'll only refund them the original 40 that they're registered for.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Cool.
One of the cool features that we've added, say 3 months, roughly, 3 months ago, is the ability for charities to have access and control a lot of that stuff. So with that, you can grant access to individual charities that are using the platform. You're managing an event, you have 5 charities, they're calling you all the time. Who's fundraising for me? How many donations have I gotten?
Can you send me a report of my fundraisers?
Yeah, so we've heard what you've told us, and what we did is we built it. So we said, all right, we don't want to have to help handle those charity requests. You don't want to have to handle those charity requests, so let's build something that allows the charities to go in. They'll set up a RunSignUp account, they can log into their profile, and they can actually access all sorts of information about their individual fundraisers, their donation reports, their payment reports. They can set up their payment account, all sorts of cool things like that that is now in the hands of the charities that are managing their own fundraisers at that point. You guys are sort of just managing your event at that point, which is really nice, in my opinion. So with that, they can go in, they can change obviously the URL, they can do charity descriptions, all sorts of different things that you see listed here. Go ahead and hit the next slide and you can actually, so once they've logged into their RunSignUp profile, they can actually go to the bottom and see their charity link more or less to charity management. And from there, that's where they get the screen. They'll be able to go in and literally click on donation summary and see every donation that's happened for their charity. Payments, access control, which would allow them to have multiple people managing the charity. So you could go in and grant 3 or 4 people access to this same interface. So then instead of one charity operator, you have 5 people at the charity that can go in and look at this. Payment options, they can go in and set up their accounts or change them at any point so that where the money flows, how the money flows. With that, it's very similar to registration flow, where they can go in and choose to get payments daily, weekly, monthly. And as such, they're going to get reports on that. The other cool thing that I personally like is they actually can go in and add on offline donation entries. And with that, they're able to go in and say that we've collected a whole bunch of money at an expo or a charity gala that's associated with the event. We want to add those in. They can go ahead and add those in.
And actually, the offline donation entry setting can be toggled on or off for each charity. So I work with a race that they don't want charity A to enter offline donations because they enter fake numbers, but they can trust charity B. So if you're ever in that situation, you can do that.
So let's say I get my charities driven that way, and they're going to take care of themselves. That's what you're basically saying. They can take care of themselves at that point.
Yes, that's the goal.
Okay, so if they have any questions, can they go directly? Can they speak or email directly to you guys rather than going through me to get to you guys?
When it comes to that interface, they can email info@RunSignUp and we'll assist them with their questions.
Okay.
So obviously, it may be an event question and then it gets passed back to you. But the question was basically, if a charity has an issue with that page, that last page, could they email us and we would assist them, obviously. It's sort of our responsibility to make sure the platform is easy to use and that they're not having technical issues. So yeah, email us.
So the one race I do has what they call partner charities, and the charity themselves has their own website, has their own fundraising collection and all that stuff. We give them a code. Folks sign up with them, raise the appropriate amount of money. They use a coupon code from us to get themselves registered. That's the way it's set up now. And that report, so they can look at their charity or their fundraising, folks that have actually finished the registration part is what they'll be most interested in. So I can limit them just into going in and seeing that, because we're in process. We've been open since April 1, and I don't want to throw too many curveballs at them.
So in your case,
James, you're using the shared coupon report.
The new one that you just gave us. I haven't looked at
so
that.
in your case, what you're using is not even a fundraising engine because you're using an external charity that has their own fundraising platform.
Yeah, this is not combing. This is a different race I work with.
I understand.
Yes.
Right,
So, but you're using maybe CrowdRise or just
whatever they have set up
so
for their own
whatever they have
individuals.
set up,
Yeah.
That's the platform that they're integrated with. And what you're talking about is effectively fundraising for registration. And the model that we would recommend if you're using an external one is to set up a coupon. You can even do a reserve entry if you sort of want to hide it and lock it down to one individual. And as such, you can go in and grant the charities access to that coupon code report, and they can go in and look at how many people have used the fundraising for registration.
That's what they want to be able to do.
Yeah.
Keep track
So
of who's
it's
signed up
a
and
little
who's
bit
not.
different, in the sense that it's not related to our fundraising engine.
Right.
But we can walk you through how to handle that if you have
Right.
questions on that.
And we added that for you about 10 days ago, but you were on vacation. so
I
you
was
might
on
not have
vacation. I
seen
saw
that.
the email,
Oh,
but I
perfect.
haven't touched it yet.
And if you have charities that, like for instance, I work with Kentucky Derby Festival, one of their charity partners is Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. They have a strict contract. All their donations can only go through Stay Classy. If you have a situation like that, you can still add the charity, list them during the registration process, and one of the options that we have is do not allow donations for this charity, but still display it. That way if someone clicks on it, they could go to.
That's what I was gonna ask, there's a hyperlink then that if you've selected leukemia lymphoma, you can then go to their site?
Yes.
Sweet.
So that way you can still incorporate every charity partner you have.
That would be the goal, to have 100% of them in one place, housed in one home, but then, because there's 2 or 3 that we have that are proprietary, use their own system.
Yep, so we do have the option for that, and sometimes it does take a few years to get charities
The
comfortable
culture.
on new
Yeah.
systems.
Yeah.
So we're going to go over some of the advanced fundraising since a lot of you have used the platform. That last one was, in my opinion, pretty advanced. It's a new feature that has only been around for a couple months. So with the advanced fundraising, you actually have the ability to hide fundraising during the registration process. And with that, they would be able to go back in later and set up fundraising if you choose.
So the hide fundraising option, we built that for Komen. It works a little bit like Convio. Everyone's forced to create a fundraising page, but registrants aren't seeing that during the registration process. So it's a little bit smoother. They complete their registration, they receive an email, a fundraising page was created for you, and then they can choose whether or not they want to use that. The fundraising team types, some races they have social teams, family teams, corporate teams, and they have team competitions. So they actually give out prizes at the race based on the team types that raise the most money.
And then the team captain fundraising questions, you can actually go in and set up individual questions that you want to ask the captain when he's setting up the team and collect that information. You can customize the term fundraiser. Instead of it being fundraiser, you can literally put in supporter, student, classroom, whatever you want. The milestone badges, we've sort of displayed a little bit of the milestones that you guys can set. We actually have different ways to add badges. The badges are literally different logo types or imagery. Instead of it just being a star, you can do a ribbon or whatever you want. The roster report gives captains access to view who's on their team. You can actually customize the fields you want the team captains to be able to see. It's not just, hey, we want them to see everything. You can just have them only see first name, last name, for instance. The pledge management is also another cool feature that we have. With that, it allows donors to pledge different donation amounts, and with that, they're trying to raise to a certain pledge threshold, if you will.
Is there the opportunity for direct donation? So there are some times where you're a fundraiser, but you also want to put your own $100 into the kitty. Is that part of the opportunity as you set up your own fundraising?
Yes.
Yeah.
So during the registration process, if
You
you
can
make a
donate.
donation, it will automatically be applied to your
It
fundraising
goes
page.
into that whole charity's
Yep.
kitty and your credit, perfect.
And your fundraising page. So in other words, you donated to your own fundraising page.
With the option of making a pledge and paying it later, how does that show up on a report? In other words, when you have your totals, fundraising totals and such like that, is there a separate, paid, not paid kind of a
We have
promised
a
or?
pledge report, so it will say amount pledged and then pledges received. So you can see you have $100,000 in pledges and you've only received 20,000 of them.
Uh-huh.
And then after the race, when I go in and say that I finished the race, it will email all of the people who pledged to make a donation to me. We do have it a little bit hidden because obviously we want the donation now. We don't want it later, but we do have pledge management tools.
And do they have to send the check in through RunSignUp? Can they send it directly to the charity, to the
So
fundraiser?
in the RunSignUp profile, just like it says my registrations, my fundraisers, there is another tab for my pledges. So if I've pledged, I can go back to my pledge tab and complete my pledge and make a donation.
So the idea is that you could collect cash, check. They could also go in through RunSignUp and pay with credit card.
After
And then
fact?
you would go back into the My Pledges, add the people that have paid with cash or check to say they have completed their pledges.
When you say you, are you
The
referring to
individual
you, the
fundraiser.
individual fundraiser, you, the
Yes.
race?
The individual fundraiser. So
Individual fundraisers cannot enter their own cash check pledges. That
Oh, I'm
has to be
sorry.
mailed to the charity because
So,
I thought it
so
I
it would
could
be
just say I
the-
have $1 million and
I thought it
pledge
was the
that,
individual
so.
charity. Sorry. The
right.
individual
So,
charity, sorry.
and obviously you want to account for that. It's your money. You want to be able to.
So it turns
complete
up
the
in
pledge.
manual or offline or whatever
Mhm.
designate. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes.
So donation summary emails. From a high level, you want to thank people that donate. It's pretty simple. You can go in, you can actually set up a message, the frequency of donation summary emails.
So a lot of organizations, they want, if someone donates over $500, the executive director wants to be notified immediately so she can call that person or thank that person. So you can set up donation summary emails. So I want to be notified on a daily basis of any donations over $500 so we can make sure to thank them. And you can set up multiple emails with different contacts, different donation levels. So I only want to know about donations over 1,000, but Eric wants to know about donations over 500. We can accommodate that.
Fundraising management. With fundraising management, this is actually correctly Bob Boberson, his fundraising page. And with that, he can go in, he can customize his actual identification, his fundraising goal, the charity that he's actually fundraising for, the URL that's something that he's going to end up sharing with all of his friends and family that he can send out via emails or put on Facebook or Twitter. And then obviously he can customize the message that he's talking about why he's raising funds. Lastly, you can go in and actually upload a custom image, upload a picture of himself, maybe his family member that's the reason why he's raising funds, whatever it may be. And with that, he's customizing this page, the landing page, if you will, that people get to by going to the fundraising URL.
I know we've had some people who have like little videos that they want on their fundraising page. Is that something that you'd be able to do too, or just photo?
It's just photo at this point. We can look at adding that.
Okay.
That's something that I was looking at myself going, we need to sort of expand the editor to support that. And maybe have like a little button to upload a video. But as of right now, we do not offer that.
All right, thanks.
Does that create your URL? Is that auto-generated, or do you actually go in and have to?
It is auto-generated, and then you can customize it if you want to edit it.
And if you customize it later, both links still work.
Okay.
So.
Here are your fundraising emails. With that, you can actually set up templates. You can select different templates that are already available that the organizations can set up and help them. And with that, the end user fundraiser has the ability to go in, write an email, and send an email. And I would highly recommend, as organizations or charities, to have them add some really meaningful text to those templates. It makes the actual donation important at that point. Otherwise, people are not going to come back and donate again the next year.
And you can have multiple templates. There isn't a limit to the number of templates, and it's just like the default fundraising message. It just serves as a guide. So you can create a thank you email. They can come in here, choose thank you, but then go in and edit the text and customize those emails.
And you could actually have one for large donations, small donations, friends, family. So you can go in and create different templates, and the fundraiser can go in and select, hey, this was a friend or family I want to do one that talks about that, or this was a large donation, and it may give them more details on how that money's going to be spent and why it was so important. So,
Is this something that I would do as the race director, or would I have the charity go and do it?
So these are not charity-specific emails. These are set at the race level.
Okay.
So if you have 4 charity partners, you would want to set these up so they're Great Pumpkin Run specific, and then people could come in and customize it and add their charity name.
so here is one of the more popular reports, obviously, is our donation report. So we have lots of different reports related to fundraising and donation. And this gives you a rough idea of an organization that raised $282,830. Doesn't have any specific charity in this case.
This was just for my test race, so it's not very exciting, but usually
It actually would normally break it down, show you the donations after fees, and with that, you'd be able to see how much money you raised for American Cancer, or Ronald McDonald House, or Komen Philly. We'd be able to see how much money was raised for them, how much we actually ended up taking out from after the fees and all that. So, and then down here you can actually see the donations by amounts. And with that, you can actually see how many people donated. So here's one that had 2, which was $25. Obviously, you're going to see a lot more as the race grows that are duplicated. The other thing that we have that I don't think we actually demonstrated is the ability to actually set some default amounts. So if you set some default amounts, you'll have a lot of people in those default amounts that are going to select, hey, I want to donate $20. So that'll group them a lot more and allow you to sort of see less colors in the chart.
And then at the bottom of this page, there will be a full CSV download, so you can download your full donation report. You can also manage each donation, resend a donation confirmation email. Someone donated to just made a donation and didn't donate to a fundraising page. As a race director, you have the ability to move donations.
That's what is going to be my next question, which you've kind of rolled right into, is that some races are big enough that you're doing fundraising. Some are more just give us an extra donation in the process of. And is that then where we would see this? And is that API also set up then so the payment goes directly from the registration into the charity, so we never have to deal with the income and the...
So when you set up a charity, you have the option immediately of getting them to set up their own payment account, whether there's fundraising or just donations.
There's actually a checkbox for do not display this charity until they've set up their payment account. So another set and forget thing, set it up.
So with that, they have to take the initiative to set up the payment account and get the funds to flow to them before they're even displayed at all. And the idea is simply, you don't want to have the money at all. You want them to get the money directly. And
I'm assuming then, as the administrator, we could go and set it up for them. So for some of these are small little charities, and we've just partnered with them. So we can set it up and then have the payments go to them without them doing any of the... I mean, they don't have to go in and set it themselves, do they? Can we just do it for them?
If you want the payment to go to the charity, they have to set it up on their own.
there's actually federal laws
Oh,
for
never mind.
that.
Truly a
And from it's basically because of terrorism and funding terrorism, so, as a basic reason why.
I think we're out of time. We're a little bit over, so
We are.
we have some great fundraiser reports. If you have questions about those, you can talk to me at any time. Fundraiser minimum report. If you have minimum amount set up, there is a quick and easy way to see which fundraisers have met that minimum, who hasn't met the minimum. For those that haven't met the minimum, there's a quick option to email everyone a reminder or remove people from the race. I'm just going through it really fast because we're out of time. Donation fundraising reports.
Questions? Hopefully that was helpful.